the next topic, which is very important topic, that is storage classes. So the very first thing you need to understand over here is that as we go down these storage classes, okay, the cost will reduce. The cost will reduce. But what will happen? The retrieval time that we have, or the latency, let's say, would be increasing. Right, this is the first thing you need to understand. Now, what are the different storage classes? Let's understand that. So by default, every object, basically, this is per object, okay? You can change the storage classes of your particular object. It is not according to the bucket, it is according to the object. Let's say you are having two objects inside of your bucket. One is photo.gif, another one is sunrise.jpg. Okay, so you can keep this photo.gif in standard and you can keep this sunrise in standard infrequent access. That can be done. So per object you can change your storage classes. It is not according to the bucket, and both photo and sunrise were into the same bucket. Okay, so what is S3 standard? So this is by default the storage class when you upload any object, right? It is for frequently accessed data. Let's take one example over here for better understanding. When we talk about news, okay, so you know that the news which is current news, okay, maybe it is generated from today to 1 week of time. This news would be frequently accessed and my users would want to read this news, right? And we want the lowest latency possible for this for accessing this news. Then at that time we would be using the S3 standard storage class for that. So that news can be in the form of PDF, it can be in the form of HTML, it can be in the form of JPEG, anything. Okay, but anything that needs to be accessed frequently, where we need the lowest latency possible, highest durability and availability, then we would be going with S3 standard. Now, out of these all classes, apart from S3 one zone infrequent access, all other storage classes would be by default replicating our data into 3 availability zones. So that's how our data become durable, right? So even if one availability zone is going down, we can have our data into other availability zone. So that was about S3 standard. The next class that we have is S3 standard infrequent access. So as the name is suggesting, infrequent access. So if you want to lower down the cost, now S3 standard is the highest cost of storage class. But if you want to lower down the cost for storing your data and you think that your data will not be that frequently accessed, okay, then in that case, you can use standard infrequent access class. So it will offer lower storage cost than S3 standard with a retrieval fee charge for accessing the data. So here you would be paying a retrieval fee for accessing your data, right? It would be accessed into milliseconds. Both of these classes would be having the data retrieval time into milliseconds, but the cost of storage will reduce in standard infrequent access. But if you want to access your data, you have to pay the retrieval fee, right? So let's suppose that your news is around 2 weeks old, okay? 2 weeks to 1 month, it would be infrequently accessed, or say 2 months, it will be infrequently accessed. So I can just change the storage class of that particular news to standard infrequent access. Then you have S3 one zone infrequent access. So this is the lower cost storage for infrequently accessed data. Right, now why this can be used? Again, if you want to reduce the cost furthermore from standard infrequent access, you can go with one zone. As the name is suggesting, the data would be stored into just one availability zone, and it is ideal for data that can be recreated. because the durability of the data would be less over here. So if your data can be recreated, like the thumbnails, right? Thumbnail data can be easily recreated. So you can store your data over there. Then you have Glacier Instant Retrieval. So the archive data. Now when we talk about these Glacier classes, we are talking about the archiving of the data. Okay, where the data will not be frequently accessed. We know that it is just for archiving purpose. So archive data that need faster restore times into the milliseconds, then we can use Glacier Instant Retrieval. This will also have the retrieval charge. Then we have Glacier Flexible Retrieval. So when we want to have the balance between cost and excess time, then this is a good option. It provides us with 3 retrieval options. Whenever you are storing your data into the Glacier, you have to retrieve your data. You have to make it online. Basically, it becomes offline. You have to rehydrate your data over here. So it takes time. Into instant retrieval, it will take milliseconds to restore. But with flexible retrieval, you have 3 retrieval options. If you go with the expedited retrievals, so now understand this, okay, retrieval would be always having charge associated with it. If you select expedited retrieval, it will restore your data in 1 to 5 minutes, but it will add up the cost. Apart from the normal retrievals fee that we pay, okay, you have to pay something extra for expedited retrievals. The same applies for the standard retrieval, but it is less expensive and will take 3 to 5 hours of time to restore your data. And lastly, bulk retrievals. So which will restore your data in 5 to 12 hours and it is free. So you can choose the option that you seem fit for your particular data. Lastly, we have Glacier Deep Archive, where we know that, okay, this is specifically for my archival purpose. My data will not be accessed. I know that, okay. So if you want the long-term cold storage, like just the data is stored for the compliance or the government's requirements, like the property data should be, retrieved for 3 years, or the business data should be retrieved for 5 or 7 years. The hospital data, the patient details should be retrieved for 5 years. So all of such can be the use cases where you just want to store your data for the archival purpose. It won't be accessed, right? So in those cases, you can use this Glacier Deep Archive, where your objects can be restored in 12 hours or less. So these are all the different classes that we have for storage. Okay, you can change the class of storage for a particular object. That can be done.